Virginia's Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax is back in the limelight after comparing sexual assault allegations against him to a political lynching.
If we go backwards and we rush to judgment and we allow for political lynchings without any due process, any facts, any evidence being heard, then I think we do a disservice to this very body in which we all serve.
Virginia's Republican-controlled House of Delegates is planning public hearings to investigate the sexual assault claims against Fairfax, although it remains to be seen if his two accusers will testify. A poll of nearly 600 Virginians found 40% think Fairfax should not resign, compared to only 31% who want him to step down. Fairfax appeared to be on the verge of taking over the governorship after both the sitting governor, this man, Ralph Northam, and the state attorney general admitted to wearing blackface in the past. All three men are staying put for now. Joining me now from Virginia's capital is Richmond Times-Dispatch political columnist Jeff Schapiro. Jeff, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Fairfax is not the first politician to compare sexual assault allegations to lynching. In 1991, then Supreme Court Justice nominee Clarence Thomas called Anita Hill's accusation a high-tech lynching. Thomas was, of course, confirmed to the court, but times have changed since then. Do you think that Fairfax's latest comments affect his chances of staying in office?
Well, right now, the lieutenant governor's problem, his political problem, threatens to become a legal one. I think that's what tends to keep people on tenterhooks down here. And the metaphor, the lynching metaphor, very powerful in a southern state, even in a southern state that is very mid-Atlantic in its orientation, largely because it is a state in which the majority of people who live here are from elsewhere, a state in which there are robust numbers of Hispanics and Asians. This was a state that was largely black or white, but still this is a powerfully evocative term that is associated with a difficult period in Virginia history. And the reaction of the senators is any measure. They sat in abject silence. That is probably a pretty good idea, a pretty reflective measure of how Virginians feel about this.
All right, so let's take a look now at Governor Northam. He told CBS earlier this month that he is, quote, not going anywhere. So tell us about the efforts he's taking to try and fix his image.
They've been somewhat ham-handed, to say the least. His interview with CBS Face the Nation, in which he talked about the enslaved Africans who arrived in Virginia in 1619 as indentured servants, it certainly suggested a measure of tone deafness on the governor's part, and has really only made it more difficult for the governor and his handlers to get their arms around this story. He's been pretty much in self-imposed protective custody since this calamity flared just over 3 weeks ago.
So do you think his efforts are working, or do you think forces will continue to conspire against him?
Well, the issue that he has now is trying to look like and behave like the governor. The legislature has just left town. He has bills he has to review, perhaps amend, sign into law. There are a lot of legislators standing for re-election this year. They'd like to see those bills become law. This is going to force legislators and the governor to engage.
Now, in your latest column, Jeff, for the Times-Dispatch, you write that the crippled centrist governorship of recovering Republican Ralph Northam could be saved if Democrats take over control of the Virginia legislature this November. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, as a recovering Republican, this is a Democrat who was courted by the Republicans as a state senator, who voted for the Bushes. The risk here for Northam is that as Virginia's politics become more nationalized and its legislature becomes, if you will, more liberal. And certainly if the Democrats were to take over the legislature or take back the legislature this year, it would be a far more liberal legislature than we're accustomed to here. That would force Northam, who's innately centrist, to sign a lot of legislation on which he might initially hesitate. But there'll be a good deal of pent-up demand. If he wants to jumpstart his administration, he's going to have to go along.
You also say that looking down the road to the next gubernatorial elections in 2021, that Northam and Herring's history of racism could lead to the state's first all-black ticket in a century. Can you explain how that would work?
Well, the Attorney General, of course, the governor are dealing with this blackface calamity. One of the things this has Democrats doing is looking beyond the customary cast of candidates for the next gubernatorial, next statewide election in 2021. The Attorney General has already announced for the Democratic nomination. The lieutenant governor, I suspect, will probably seek the nomination if he somehow comes through this controversy intact. But nonetheless, this has got Democrats wondering if candidates of color and women may be the key to a turnaround in the next statewide election. There was an all-black Republican ticket a century ago, largely as a protest to the refusal of Republicans to fully embrace African Americans, as they did in the aftermath of the Civil War. Of course, the Republican Party, the Party of Lincoln, the party that freed the slaves.
All right, Jeff Schapiro of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.